All right, let me see if I can just wrap this all together here. See, this presuppositional thing has a personal meaning to me because, see, this is what I am arguing. That is a skeptical argument that Christian logicians got a hold of and realized, okay, well, God is our start. The question, it works like this. There's a couple ways to put it. In logic, you always start off with principles. Those are not the results of logic. What are the results of? That's been the big question. Chasing those back. Okay, so classically, you chase them back to axioms. Why are there true axioms? Well, God built them into the universe. Okay, there's no God. Oh, well, I don't know. They're built into the universe. Law of non-contradiction. 2 plus 2 equals blah, blah, blah. Okay, but those are actually dependent on their principles, and you can show there's an infinite regression of defending the definitions that are used to make something like bachelors automatically always be male. Because it's in the definition, so it goes back and back. Okay, that's one way. The other way is to take measurements and make statements. You have to do it relativistically, always compared to something. So if I say something's 3 feet long, and I can pretend and use arbitrarily, artificially, that as though it's its absolute height. In fact, what that is that comes from me comparing it to a standard stick that I share with other people so that we're consistent. That stick could be centimeters, inches, feet, yards, right? Okay, so it's a comparison. What do you compare the ruler to? Well, that has been answered in practical ways, right? The Institute of whatever it is that does the measurements, standard unit thing, they've said, well, it's 45,000 lengths of this molecule or whatever. They have their ways basically to reproduce just the one that was arbitrarily chosen, Well, it's a foot. It's about like this. And sometimes it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that two different people have the same ruler so much as the guy you go to has a ruler, so he's consistent with the people that come to him. Okay, don't mean to seem like I'm off topic. The point is, what's the ultimate ruler? You always have another one. Now, if you go buy a yardstick, down at one of those made out of cheap wood, now how accurate it's going to be? Is it going to be? You would take that yardstick and compare it to the standard one in Europe, or one that was more closely compared ultimately to that, right? Or compared to the standard that's used to define the meter, how far light goes in this much time, or whichever standard is being used, right? You would compare. So instead of going back to the ultimate axiom, which is a fun thing, I've done it, but then if you don't really believe there is ultimate axioms, why do it that way? It's just a mapping of something I do believe, which is that you're always comparing. The question is, what's the first comparison? What's the first ruler? And the answer is your own perceptions and comparisons you make within the space of your own perceptions. That's the answer. That's the answer. That's what's presupposed. We have to start somewhere. Yes, but it's not on some self-evident, absolutely true axiom that we start or anything like that. It's nothing that starts from or leads to absolute certainty or correctness or any of that. We start from our perceptions, our stream of perceptions. Should be something that you could just admit. The concept that there's something other for your mentality than perceptions itself comes from analyzing the perceptions. I too have that belief that, for example, there is a big broad outside world. If the meteor comes and hits me, there's the rest of whatever remains. It has its own existence, right? Now the sun might not have a temperature as I think of it, because that's something I think of. If I'm gone, if all of human species is gone, it would have a state, though. It would have physical, a reality of its own, but there'd be nothing to characterize it as temperature. It would make no difference to anything to think of it that way. It would just be the molecules moving the way the molecules were moving. So when you take these questions back to what do we start from, it's like, well, what did Plato start from? With the world of forms that we have direct access to. And it gets copied imperfectly into the world. We have to deal with that. You know, whatever. Where do we start? Where do we start? That is the question of the thousands of years of Western philosophy. And this is what the presuppositionalists are challenging people that happen to be atheists on. But I'm over here knowing very well, you know, I have only argued seriously about these topics with atheists. In the world of philosophy for a long time, to argue these issues is not to have to deal with the theistic interpretation except for as maybe a historical reference. Or it might be brought in like by someone like me that, like the Christian presuppositionalists, believe that there is no justification for axiomatic epistemologies, axiomatic ideas that attribute axiom reality in the world, whether as things or just as some inherent feature of the world. I also am arguing against those kind of people. They all happen to be atheists. So to me, it's like the Christian presuppositionalists are coming at this group of atheists, on YouTube type atheists, that thought, hey, we're probably going to be one big happy family of happy secular progressives. I mean, libertarians. I mean, what? I hate you. You know, it was no surprise to me. We have even bigger differences they still have yet. You know, each of those subgroups has bigger differences than they still have yet to discover. And that's the fingerprint thing in the history. We're always going down to, well, after the pattern of similarity, what are the remaining individuating features? How can they be measured? So I have an answer. I could argue with the Christian presuppositionalist. None of those questions confuse me. I don't end up saying I might not exist and stupid shit like that. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should go try to argue with one of them. But if I did, it would be more to show these axiomatic atheists, dogmatic atheists, that there's an answer that should be acceptable to them. What's the problem with it? Exactly. That's a more important problem to me than why some people believe in God. Because I see some people believe in God and live a decent life. Whatever. It's more important to me why people would hold on to unjust, demonize other people in such a way as to not understand how those other people who are wrong in certain respects are making valid criticisms I can't answer, that I answer emotionally while I'm saying I'm Mr. Rational. That bugs me.